Are you crazy? Because I know I am, and this is Cardfight Crazy. I am Joey, and the end of G-Era commemoration with deck profiles continues. My second G-Era OTT deck, especially with Amaterasu just being announced today, I decided let's cover this one now, get them out of the way. Starting with grade 3s, notice from the thumbnail, notice from here, this is a witch build, kind of. It just, you know, utilizes it. And the break ride hexagonal mega. So, the break ride first. Limit break. When an OTT rides this unit, look at 3 cards on top of your deck, search for up to 1 card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on top of your deck in any order. Choose your Vanguard, gains plus 10k until end of turn. Continuous during your turn, if the number of cards in your hand is 4 or more, gains 2k. And Lord. Scarlet Witch Coco, this is the EBO5 variant, I think. Ah, yes, there it is. 1 from BTO2, the Triple R. During your turn, if you do not have any cards in your soul, this unit gains plus 3k from Vanguard Circle. And Counterblast 2, when Scarlet Witch Coco is placed on Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw 2 cards. You can only activate that if the number of cards in your soul is 1 or less. That is important. Later on in the game, it's nice to go first with this deck, to ride Coco first, and Counterblast 2 to draw, and then to ride Hexagonal, and then use one of the many cards to Soul Blast, and then ride Coco again, this time break riding, so you can Counterblast 2, draw 2, and then activate the break ride skill, looking at your top card, looking at your top 3, adding 1 to your hands, and knowing your drive checks. Starter, of course, if we're doing Soulless, Little Witch Lulu. Just the best starter to go with, and honestly, it's a fantastic starter in any OTT build. Soul, when another of your grade 3 or greater OTT is placed on Vanguard Circle, you may call this card to rearguard. So it does work on Stride, if you want to hold off until then. Or if you rode the break ride first and you're like me and you're forgetful. But, auto, choose 2 OTT from your soul and put them into your drop zone. When this unit is placed on rearguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, when it's placed on rearguard from soul, you may pay the cost. If you do, and you have an OTT Vanguard, you can draw 1 card. But it activates Soulless, you get to draw 1, then you can Counterblast 2 with Coco, and draw 2 more. So for a cost of Counterblasting 2, Soul Blasting 2, you get to draw 3 cards, and it's fantastic when you go first and you ride up to grade 3, because then you get a nice, healthier hand. Lozenge Magus, just Lozenge Magus. This is the BTO1 Single R and the EBO7 Commons, but this is the art I prefer for Lozenge. And as I mentioned in the last OTT deck profile, when it boosts a unit, the boosted unit gains plus 3k, and at the end of the turn, you return it to the deck, and she can be a 4-runner. 4 crit. Just 4. And all of them being Psychic Bird, move it to the soul, draw a card if you have an OTT Vanguard. And with this deck, I like to run 7 stands. Nebula Witch No-No is a great card. Soul Blast 1. At the end of the battle, this unit boosts you and pay the cost if you draw a card and return Nebula Witch to the deck with a GB1 restriction. That is fantastic because it allows you to re-ride and to then move the card out of your soul to have 1 or less in soul so you can ride Coco again. And Bell Ringing Miko Oka. Oka is helping the pressure turns. Oracle, GB1, retire this unit. If you have a Vanguard with the Oracle ability, choose one of your rearguards, and until end of turn, it gets, when this unit attacks, until end of battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0 cards from hand. So giving a Tom effect, you do have to have Oracle, you do have to have a Vanguard with the Oracle ability, but the unit you choose does not have to have Oracle. And I run it with 7 stands just because I like the 1 draw trigger. This is a holdover from when the deck was actually Witch focused, and it just focused on using Floral Witchmaster Mimi. But I got used to 1 draw, and still damage checking a draw trigger as your first damage of the game, or late when you need something to guard, is still wonderful. 4 PGs, 3 of the Oracle PGs, and 1 Battle Sister Chocolat. It's the 1 Chocolat because it's what I had. I only have 7 of these, and I have 5 Chocolots, so decided to just make it that way. And it's fine because, once again, with the Oracle, you can return it to hand and then bind another unit. Specifically, at the end of your turn, GB1 and Oracle from the drop zone, counterblast 1. You may pay the cost if you do. Return Amatsui Kone to your hand, then randomly bind a card from your hand. So even with the 4 PGs and one of them being Chocolate, you can still PG 5 or 6 times in a game. On to Stride Fodder 3. Susnaoo Searcher, so not going to help you here. 1 stamp. And when you pitch it for the cost of Stride, gains +2 grade. 2 of my favorite are 1 triple R variant and 1 single R. Battle Sister Coco, this is my favorite grade 1 in the game. When it's placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, if you have an OTT Vanguard, look at the top card of your deck and put it on top or bottom. That simple skill, being able to check your triggers, or move a card that you don't want to damage check away. If you do end up riding her on that first turn, you don't want to damage check that card, you move it to the bottom. It's nice and helpful. Battle Sister Lemonade. A perfect combo is to ride up to grade 3 with Coco, then do the Soul Blast 2, and Counterblast 2 to draw 3, and then your next turn, ride another Coco, Counterblast 2 more, draw 2 more, then move Psychic Burden to the Soul to draw 1, then call Lemonade, and Soul Blast 2 to countercharge 2. Useful because damage goes away fast in this deck. And lastly, something to actually do some kind of pressure. This deck is very, very casual. There's no pressure here. It's just a fun little build, and it's the basis of the deck that I tinkered around with way more. I don't tinker a ton with decks. I don't change them up a ton. I generally just build a deck and then build another clan. But with this version of OTT, I have spent over 2 years just continuously readjusting it. I went Susnaoo for a while, went back to Witches, then bought another Susnaoo deck once Ichikishima was coming out. So that's why I still like having this around, and it's always fun to see what I can do with it. Oracle. Retire this unit. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. You may pay the cost if you draw a card. And GB1, when this unit is placed on rearguard, choose one of your other rearguards with the Oracle ability in the same column as this unit until end of turn. It gets continuous. It gains +1k for every card in your hand. Just like the Susnaoo OTT, you can have a massive hand, and especially on the GB8 turns, which is what this deck focuses on, with Oka, you can create some big columns that cannot be guarded by zeros. 10k bodies. This deck, when it was the Witches, the pure Witches, because it ran Tom and the Witches, so that was an 8k and a 7k. I ran 5 10k bodies because they were just necessary to ride or put some pressure on. But just having 3 of them is fine. These would honestly probably be Toms these days if it wasn't for my classic CEO Amaterasu build, in which my only 4 Toms are used. And this is a great card. GB1, when this unit attack hits a Vanguard, countercharge 2. It's a Princess Weather Girl Smoothly, a common from the character booster. You countercharge 2 on hit at GB1, you know? Even if she hits just once in a game, that's very, very helpful. A little more draw support. Diviner Kuro Ikazuchi. So not running Amino Oshiho because not running enough Oracle units. But Diviner Kuro Ikazuchi, counterblast 1 when this unit attacks the Vanguard. If it is boosted, you have to pay the cost. And if you do, draw a card. GB1 restriction. But a solid card doesn't have to hit. Just get it boosted and you draw. 1 advantage Miko Nanase. Like I said, there is a little bit of pressure on the GB8 turns. If you can put an Oka onto her and make her unguardable by zeros, they gotta have that BG. Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 when the unit attack hits a Vanguard and pay the cost to do. Look at 2 cards on top of your deck. Put 1 into your hand, 1 on the bottom. GB2 and Oracle, this unit gains +1k for each card in your hand. Now on to the G-Zone. So the way that I do it is I like to have both G-Zones be separate from my 2 G-Era decks. I don't want to have to move anything over, and I put the money into the Susnaoo one. So here we have 5 G-Guards, 3 Sunrise on High, Godhawk, Ichibi Yoshi. You have 3 cards in hand, it's a 20k shield. And 2, Excite Battle Sister Bavaroy. Counterblast 1, when it's placed on Guardian Circle, draw a card, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is grade 1 or greater, gains 5k shield, then you can put the revealed card on bottom or leave it on top. I did mention witches, and at the end of a game, this can be problematic for some people, you know? If they have a lower hand, Floral Witchmaster Mimi. Auto. Choose a card with a witch in its card name from your hand and discard it. When this unit is placed on Vanguard, if you have a heart card with a witch in its card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses 2 cards from his or her hand and discards them. If he or she does not discard 2 cards, may choose 2 cards from their hand and discard them. If they do not discard 2 cards, then you choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, deal 1 damage, and during that all trigger checks are nullified. The thing about it is that if they twin drive, they're guaranteed to have at least 2 cards, you know. So they can always pay that cost, but earlier on in the game, you can stride into her just to get an extra damage on your opponent. And if they don't hit their heal triggers, then they're sitting up there in extra damage. And with this deck, having them in an extra damage can be very, very helpful. Another, tech card. Sword Deity of the Thunderbreak, Taka Mikazuchi. Counterblast 2, and choose a face-down card named Sword Deity of Thunderbreak, Taka Mikazuchi from your G-Zone. Turn it face up. If you have 2 or more cards face up in your G-Zone, then you get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and put 2 into your hand, put the other 2 on bottom. Helpful when you need 2 additional cards to your hand and you want to slightly dictate what they are. 1 copy of the Soaring Auspicious Beast Kirin, or Soaring Auspicious Beast Qui-Gon Jinn. When its attack hits, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 in hand, 1 on the bottom. Just nothing too flashy. That can be replaced with the Susnaoo. Clever, and that would not be bad, because this deck does try to get to GB8 quicker, but our main stride for most of the game, for 2 turns at least, Lord of Guidance Wakahirume, GB2 and Oracle, Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1, and G Persona Blast. Draw a card, put a card from your hand on top of your deck. Very, very simple, very good. Put a trigger there. I routinely, when I actually play this deck, I go into her, and I always keep a heal in my hand to put back on top of my deck, because it is just wonderful to heal and annoying. And with the Break Ride, you can set it so you know the top 2 cards of your deck, and then you can go into her, because if you look at 3 cards, and 2 of them are non-triggers, you can get both of them out of the way and put 2 triggers on top of your deck. And 2 copies of the main winner. Yeah, the only way that this thing really wins is with Chief Deity of the Heavens, Amaterasu, the GB8. Act once per turn, GB8, Counterblast 1, look at 5 cards from top of your deck, put 3 cards from among them into your hand, put each on the rest on top of your bottom of your deck in any order. Until in turn this unit gets Oracle. When your drive check reveals a trigger unit, all of the units in your front row get plus 5k until end of turn. I mentioned with Ophidian how you have to wait until after you do the skill to be able to draw with Ophidian. With Oka, you have to wait until after you do the skill to be able to use it. So that's simple. The nice thing about her is you don't have to have Oracle until you want to get that trigger effects, but if you need to use Oka, then you do have to have Oracle after you add the cards to hand, and by adding up to 3 cards to your hand, you'll probably have it. I'm Joey. This is my tinker around random ass OTT deck that's been here for years now, and I love it, and I probably won't make Susnaoo premium at all. If I were to, it'd be interesting, but this has a chance to go premium with Coco. But even then, I'm just really excited for Standard. This is Cardfight Crazy, saying, hope you're crazy too.